We begin with breaking news. You're looking live at North York tonight, where police say a man has been rushed to hospital with critical injuries after being stabbed. It happened just after 9 on Weston Road, west of Jane Street. Officers say they got calls about a group of people fighting, and that's when they found the man badly hurt. Police are also saying the suspects fled in the vehicle. We're still waiting for more information on that. As you can see, roads in the area are closed. A number of police on scene as the investigation continues. And we're staying in North York. More developing news to tell you about tonight. A man is in hospital fighting for his life after 2 vehicles crashed. You can see the badly damaged vehicles there. It happened just after 8:30 tonight near Parkway Forest Drive and Don Mills Road. That's south of the 401. We're still working on getting you more details for this one. We'll bring you more as we learn them. Turning to our top story next, Monday marks 1 year since Hamas launched its attack on Israel, setting off the ongoing war and leading to the deaths of tens of thousands of people. On October 7th last year, Hamas launched its assault on Israel, killing nearly 1,200 people, mostly civilians. More than 200 others were taken hostage during that initial attack, many of them children and elderly. Dozens remain in captivity. Since October 7th, Israel has been relentless in its attacks on the Gaza-based militant group. According to the territory's health authorities, nearly 42,000 people have been killed, including thousands of children. Families in Ontario with ties to the war finding their own ways to mark this somber anniversary, honoring those both killed and alive. Brittany Billette has some of their stories.
On Sunday, rallies took place in Toronto and Ottawa in support of the Israeli hostages still being held.
Bring them all home now!
According to Israeli officials, over 200 hostages were taken during Hamas's attack on October 7th of last year. One of them was 24-year-old Romy Gonen, who was kidnapped at the Supernova Music Festival. Her cousin, Maureen Lesham, says authorities have confirmed her cousin is still alive.
So on the one hand, it feels like it was just yesterday. But at the same moment, it feels like it's been an eternity.
While she holds on to hope to one day be reunited, other families have had to mourn the loss of their loved ones. Last month, Israeli officials announced multiple hostages had been killed. One of them was 40-year-old Carmel Gat, whose cousin lives in Toronto.
Carmel managed to survive 331 days. She was supposed to be home. And we still have kidnaps over there. They all need to be home. They all need to be home. There's no logic explanation. Doesn't matter how I think about it. There's no logic explanation why a year after, 365 days later, we still have civilians in captivity.
For the last year, the war has raged on, intensifying and spreading. And in Gaza, the situation has only worsened too. Here at home in Milton on Sunday, community members held a vigil to mark the lives of those who were killed there. Some people have lost more than a dozen family members, including Dalia El-Farah.
For a lot of us, October 7th, of course, is a heavy anniversary, but for us, it's not October 7th. It's 1948, it's 1967, it's 1987, it's 2001, it's all of those dates that have been ingrained in our collective memory forever, as part of our trauma and our generational trauma.
Some will be marking the anniversary by protesting, but others say they're exhausted, tired of endless speeches, empty promises, and senseless killings. Israel Safin's brother was killed on October 13th, 2023.
It's not like something happened and it's the anniversary of that event. It's still ongoing genocide, it's still ongoing killing and pain, there's still ongoing suffering, and it's more spread to other areas like Lebanon. So I don't see a difference between yesterday, tomorrow, and the other days.
While many repeat calls for a ceasefire, with ongoing bombardments in the region, many more doubt that peace can be achieved anytime soon. Brittany Billette, CBC News, Toronto.
To Israel next, the CBC's Chris Brown went to a kibbutz where a Canadian was killed and shows us very different views on the country's response.
In Kibbutz Be'eri, this place is now known as Death Row.
Why do you call it that?
Because each house, they went in, they killed everybody,
Neely Bar Sinai has brought us to see the worst of the carnage inflicted on her community a year ago. Her husband Yoram, who was 75, was shot dead on the balcony of her daughter's home.
He shot and they shot, but there were 7 and he was 1.
He may have saved their lives.
I hope he didn't suffer alone and he was not taken to Gaza. So everything is relative, everything to what happens here.
She recounts the evil that occurred here with the matter-of-factness that comes with repetition. But her thoughts on Hamas, the Palestinians who support them, and critics of Israel's unrelenting attacks on Gaza are laced with anger.
You don't think the world understands?
No, because I think they have a much better propaganda, much more efficient. Like you asked me about the 40,000 people that were killed. It is not civilians who were killed. It is not civilians.
The UN says more than 6,000 women and 11,000 children are among Gaza's victims. One of the people Hamas killed in Be'eri was Bar Sinai's friend, well-known Canadian-Israeli peace activist Vivian Silver.
Yeah, I miss her. My kids miss her.
Yonatan Zygan says, like his mother, he rejects those who say a military solution is the only course left.
I didn't see the problem as Hamas gunmen murdering my mother. I saw the problem as the conflict and the occupation.
Her death transformed him, leaving his job as a social worker to follow in his mother's activism footsteps.
We have seen it again and again. Every time we kill the biggest monster, a bigger monster emerges.
He says Canadians have a role to play too, that they have not done well enough.
If they would have been really wanted to be constructive and to help the Palestinians and the Israelis, they would put down the flags and raise the banner of peace.
I was not that naive as Vivian because she came from Canada.
Zygan and Bar Sinai remain friends, though she believes Israel had no other path than the one it took after October 7th.
Maybe someday they will accept us, and until then we will have to have occasional rounds of killing.
A sentiment that, while divisive, remains widespread in Israel on this solemn anniversary. Chris Brown, CBC News, Be'eri.
Closer to home now, friends and family in 3 cities across Ontario are mourning 3 people, all allegedly killed by the same woman. The news of the murders broke late Friday. As Lisa Shing reports, there are still so many questions.
The card games go on at this Italian social club, but without one of its regulars.
He was a gentleman and a scholar and a judge of fine wines.
Just a very pleasant man, quiet, humble. Just an excellent friend and member of the club.
That friend, 77-year-old Mario Bilic, a retired teacher, stabbed to death in Hamilton, Ontario, Thursday. Bilic's daughter, Serena, posted, "I sit in a puddle of tears thinking about my dad, a great man with a huge heart." The alleged killer, 30-year-old Sabrina Kaldhar, arrested in a nearby city, now charged with 3 murders. Security video obtained by CBC News shows Bilic's final moments, leaving the Italian club to head to his car, while Kaldhar allegedly followed him. And here, the same woman running from the crime scene.
We were all taken aback. My goodness, this is madness.
Bilic is the last of 3 people police believe Kaldhar killed in 3 different cities in a span of 3 days. The others, an unidentified woman in her 60s in a West Toronto neighborhood, the only one who police say Kaldhar knew, and 47-year-old Lance Cunningham in a Niagara Falls park. In an email to CBC News, his wife Kim wrote, "He was my best friend, a wonderful father for our daughter, the fun dad. He did not deserve this." So far, police say there's no clear motive, and since the victims were both targeted and random,
it is allegedly a case of serial murder, but it also again has a lot of these traits that are more closely aligned with historically what criminologists and homicide scholars would call a spree killer.
Niagara police say the accused had previous interactions with police but never charged Kaldhar. Now they're trying to find out whether any other attacks in the province might be linked. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
A talented Toronto musician, deeply loved by her friends, family, and the arts community, being remembered tonight. Her life was cut short when she was hit and killed while out for a walk. Tyreek Reed has more from those who are mourning her loss and honoring her memory.
We were very close, and I can't imagine what the future is going to be like without her.
Tara Cleveland says life has been a nightmare since her sister Julia's death. The moment she got the devastating news still haunts her.
And then I just started screaming. And then I had to call my parents and tell them. And that was probably the worst phone call I've ever made in my life.
2 weeks ago, Cleveland was out walking with her partner when they were hit by an SUV. Police say 2 vehicles collided, sending one crashing onto the sidewalk. Good Samaritans rushed in to try to save her, but there was nothing they could do. Sisters Caitlin and Leslie McPhail Burrell grew up with Cleveland.
It's completely incomprehensible that all of a sudden we're here planning, eulogies for her when she was such a huge part of our lives.
She's supposed to be here, and we'll never be the same without her. It's a tremendous loss. She made everything better for everyone, and she was supposed to be here until the end.
The memorial was held at the University of Toronto's Faculty of Music building, where the 43-year-old studied music and fell in love with jazz. From there, she built her celebrated career as both a performer and teacher.
She was such an excellent composer and performer, and she wrote tunes with such a level of integrity and intent. The passion on the page translated to the music. She compelled you to play better.
One driver is now facing 3 charges, including careless driving causing death. If found guilty, he could face maximum of 2 years in prison.
It's shocking that somebody could be careless and kill somebody in their car and could get away with just paying a fine and having some demerit points. It's a tragedy on top of another tragedy.
Cleveland's sister Tara says while the family was shocked by the charge, they believe Julia would want them to forgive the driver.
And while I can forgive that man, I would encourage everyone to please just take some time. Don't rush. It's not worth killing somebody. It could be your sister. It could be your mother. It could be your friend. Please slow down and be careful.
Tyreek Reed, CBC News, Toronto.
We are switching gears now, turning to the forecast. Another beautiful day for people to get out there, get to a pumpkin patch, an apple farm, all the fun things for the autumn season. Sophia is joining us now with our first look at the forecast. And you're tracking yet another powerful storm that's making its way to Florida again.
Shannon, yes, Florida residents are pausing the massive cleanup from last week's deadly Hurricane Helene to brace for the life-threatening impacts of the incoming Hurricane Milton. Now, Milton is currently rapidly intensifying in very warm Gulf of Mexico waters. Last week, when Helene ripped through the Gulf, it went through so quickly it didn't mix up enough cold water, and instead it's left behind the perfect bathwater, warm bathwater mixture to birth a monster storm. Yesterday, Milton was a vigorous tropical storm. It is now a Category 1 hurricane. It's expected to rapidly strengthen to become a Category 4 hurricane at peak, with winds in excess of 240 kilometers. It's also expected to make landfall on the western coast of Florida Wednesday afternoon as a major hurricane, but its track is a real head scratcher. When storms begin in the western side of the Gulf, they usually take a more northerly track towards Texas or New Orleans. This time, though, there's a lot of really powerful upper-level steering forces in the atmosphere that are taking Milton literally west to east, direct impact towards the Tampa and the Sarasota area. Then this could even intensify further to be a Category 3 or greater. This is an area that hasn't seen landfalling of a major hurricane in over 7 decades. It's also an area that is really prone to life-threatening storm surge and intense wave heights. Right now, though, the track is looking like it could slink a little further to the south, which could mean intense storm surge for areas towards the Everglades, Naples, and even wrapping around towards Miami. Now, the intense and flooding rainfall will begin days in advance of Milton. A wide swath of land will see rain in excess of 100 millimeters throughout the next few days, even damaging wind and rain to the Orlando metropolitan area and to the eastern side of Florida. The advisories have already been posted. If you know anybody in Florida, have them monitor this situation very closely, as we will be doing for you here. And coming up a little later in the show, I will spell out our own active weather that we had here at home today, with intense storms, wind and hail all across the region, a line of storms that even brought tornado warnings stateside. So I'll tell you about that later in the show.
A very busy day for you. We'll talk to you shortly. We want to bring you a CBC News exclusive next. People in Owen Sound have been left waiting for more than a year for answers ever since the owner of a local restaurant was killed in a dine and dash. Ali Chiasson has been spending time in the community speaking with people who knew and cared about the husband and father. Tonight she brings us the first-hand account from a cook who was there when the attack happened.
It's been more than a year since Owen Sound restaurateur Sharif Rahman was killed, shattering the calm of this picturesque Georgian Bay community. The OPP and Owen Sound police announced arrests in August, but have said nothing since. The names of the suspects and what they may be charged with remains a mystery to the public. That's left Sharif's friends and family grappling with questions about what happened and who was responsible. But there was one witness who was at the restaurant that night and saw the suspects who attacked Sharif. He has never given an interview or a public account of what he saw until now. Adnan Hussein was Sharif's employee at the Curry House, and he was working in the kitchen on the night of August 17th, 2023, when three men came into the restaurant to order food.
It was about our closing time, 9 o'clock. I made tandoori chicken for them.
Sharif was serving the men, and Hussein said things seemed normal until he heard a disturbance at the front of the restaurant and went out to investigate.
Something is going wrong outside. Then I came out from the kitchen and I saw Sharif was running behind them. He was able to stop one of them to go inside the restaurant and pay the bill. I was helping him to stop the person. He was around 6 feet.
Hussein said that as Sharif tried to hold the first man, one of the other men returned, and that's when a struggle ensued in front of the restaurant.
He was fighting with me. Suddenly I heard a sound. The sound like was that if two hard objects hit each other, and I moved my head and I saw Sharif was laid down on the sidewalk, and the tall guy ran away, and I also tried to stop him, but he pushed me and I fall down. Then again I tried to stop him and I ran some distance, but then I was thinking that no, I should save my employer, I mean Sharif. Then I called 911. That's everything.
The entire encounter was over in moments, but violent enough to leave Sharif Rahman so badly injured that he would never wake up. He died in a London ICU a week later, leaving behind a wife and a young daughter. Police believe the suspects fled in this vehicle. Now, more than a year later, the community of Owen Sound still waits for answers. The OPP and Owen Sound police continue to cite, quote, complexities in the ongoing investigation as the reason for withholding information about the arrests. And so, for now, justice for Sharif hangs in limbo. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Owen Sound.
Thousands of people lacing up for the CIBC Run for the Cure this morning. Runners kicking off their journey just after 10 in Midtown Toronto, tackling 1 or 5 kilometer routes. This is the 32nd year for the event, which began in support of Canadians impacted by breast cancer.
See people in pink shirts, those are our participants of hope that are survivors that are going through treatment, and this is why what we do. It's for those people in the pink shirts. We're here to raise funds for the awareness and come together and celebrate.
She says they raised $2.7 million this year, but that's just a piece of this countrywide event. The Canadian Cancer Society says they've collectively raised more than $15 million. And if you didn't make it out this year, don't worry, the date for the next one is already set for October 5th, 2025. Just a gorgeous day out there for a run today. Congrats to everyone who took part. Sophia, I know you were out with the kids at a pumpkin patch earlier today, having some fun with them. We're talking, though, the full forecast, and you're saying, you know, the big cool down is on the way.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed that picture-perfect fall day. Thank you for that, Shannon, because it's going to be more like cozy sweater vibes this upcoming work week. But the summer-like weather wasn't going out without kicking and screaming throughout the day today. Some potent lines of storms, especially throughout the cottage country area, with the potential of some straight-line wind damage that we had earlier today, even hail in the Kingston area. It was the same cold front that even prompted tornado warning stateside. Peak wind gusts throughout today topped out in excess of 70, even 80 kilometers an hour. And in the wake of this cold front, a strong northwest flow for a chilly and breezy Monday with, look at this, cooler air over the warmer lake waters, and that's lake effect showers. If it was a few degrees cooler, it's almost time for that time of year when we have lake effect snow. It's part of a northwest flow that will bring gusts around 40 to 50 kilometers all throughout your Monday, bringing in this cool lobe of Arctic air that will be with us with a below seasonal track for the first half of this upcoming work week. In fact, we're already seeing frost advisories posted to our neighbors on the Quebec side of our border, across the nation's capital region, and throughout this upcoming work week. Some of the areas in northern Ontario that were just basking in 30-degree warmth are now going to have snow to talk about in the next few days. Tuesday overnight will be the really cool overnight lows with frosty conditions even around the freezing mark around cottage country and around the nation's capital region. And then Wednesday's daytime highs will be anywhere from 2 to 5 degrees below seasonal. But hey, there's light at the end of this cool tunnel into next weekend. And we're blessed again with 20-degree warmth to go and visit the pumpkin patches and the corn mazes and the apple orchards as the ridge looks like it'll build back in. And in general, this upcoming week will feature lots of sunshine and a fairly stable atmosphere. Shannon?
Okay, we'll take that because it's much too soon for frost and snow. Thanks, Sophia. That's it for us. Thanks so much for joining us.